وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. اللهم أصلح لنا ديننا الذي هو عصمة أمرنا، وأصلح لنا دنيانا التي فيها معاشنا، وأصلح لنا آخرتنا التي إليها معادنا، واجعل الحياة زيادة لنا في كل خير، واجعل الموت راحة لنا من كل شر. So before we go into this in the hadith, I want to talk a little bit about what should our perspective be towards what's going on today in the world. I remember when the situation in Syria first broke out. My sheikh that I mentioned a lot, Sheikh Mu'taz, may Allah bless him, I went to him and I said, "Ya Sheikh, how do I, what do I do?" And he, by the way, he's from Syria as well. So, he had family that was, going through it. So he said, "Abu Bakr, you know Allah is in control, right?"
Yeah.
So, I mean, one thing that we tend to forget in all of this, it's forgotten. Because we're looking at how devastating everything is. The destruction, the killing, and I mean, I think it is only the tip of, even if the bombing stopped today, like the amount of people that will eventually die because of everything that's happening, it's going to go way up. I just saw something that said that I think it was like 12 or 15 of the 35 hospitals in Gaza do not work. There's nothing, no service, nothing. So I mean, imagine like all the types of patients they have there.
Well, 6,
most likely, most of them are going to die.
6,000 dead, 20,000 injured. What's going to happen?
Right. Yeah. So and also that's one thing. Then also the other people that they still haven't found yet.
Right. In the rubble.
In the rubble, yes.
Yeah.
And they say there's quite a few people that are still alive in the rubble.
Yeah.
So, nonetheless, I mean, obviously, there's a lot going on. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us for our shortcomings and not being able to support, our Muslim brothers and sisters. But it's tragedy after tragedy. It's literally one after another. One after another. So the first thing I think that's important for us to understand in this is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tests the believers. He said, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, عَجَبًا لِأَمْرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ, how strange is the situation of the believer. وَلَيْسَ ذَلِكَ إِلَّا لِلْمُؤْمِنِ, right? Nobody gets this except for the believer. إِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ ضَرَّاءَ صَبَرَ فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. So if something difficult or something he dislikes happens to him and he has sabr, it's actually good for him. When أصابته سراء شكر فكان خيرا له, right? And if something happens that he likes and he's thankful, so therefore it's good for him. So first of all, regardless of how difficult things are, it's a good thing if we're believers, right? That's the first thing. And then the second thing is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised victory for believers, right? So now the key here is that we all have to come back to being believers. We have to come back to Islam. We have to come back to filling the masajid. We have to come back to, putting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before everything else. When we do that, then no one can mess with us. No one can do anything to us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us these difficulties to bring us back to Him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, مَسَّتْهُمُ الْبَأْسَاءُ وَالضَّرَّاءُ حَتَّى يَقُولَ الرَّسُولُ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ مَتَى نَصْرُ اللَّهِ أَلَا إِنَّ نَصْرَ اللَّهِ قَرِيبٌ. Right? That difficulties were and extreme difficulties were hitting them until it got to a point where they said, when is Allah's victory coming, Ya Allah? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds that surely it is near. And you know the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, when they came to complain to the Prophet ﷺ about the people of Mecca and what they were doing to them, right? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, there were prophets before you, right? And there were the righteous people with those prophets, that they would dig a hole in the ground for them, and they would put them in this hole, and they would have only their head out. Then they would split their head and then comb their head open, both sides, right? And they wouldn't be shaken. He said, وَلَكِنَّكُمْ قَوْمٌ تَسْتَعْجِلُونَ. But you are people that you're looking for a victory right away. Right? So the difficulties have come, and they're going to continue to come. But the only way we can get past this is by going back to Allah. We have to realize that it's about Islam. It's not about Palestine or this country or that country. It's about Islam. It's about, and when we make it about that, and when we're going back to Allah and we're filling up masajid, I guarantee victory will come. No one will be messing with the Muslims anymore. And you all know, for more than 1,000 years, nobody messed with Muslims. No. Like the most recent person, or the most recent people who messed with the Muslims were the Crusaders, right? And then the Mongols. But they were all beaten. They were all defeated. Right? Nobody else really messed with the Muslims until, when they took over the Ottoman Empire. Right? And in all of those situations, they were cases of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bringing us back to Him. And the issue, and Allah knows best, this is just my humble analysis, and I'm speaking on a global sense, not just Palestine, is that these calamities are happening to shake us and wake us up. We wake up a little bit, and then a little bit. But we need to wake up completely. We need to be fully awake in order for us to gain the ground. Because, again, وَلَن تَرْضَى عَنْكَ الْيَهُودُ وَلَا النَّصَارَى حَتَّى تَتَّبِعَ مِلَّتَهُم. The Jews and the Christians, they'll never be happy with you until you follow their deen. So, no matter what happens, or no matter what calamity inflicts the Muslims, they're not going to come to our aid. It's not going to happen. They won't, because this is their nature. They will always stand against us. And we have to realize, if we want support, we got to get it from Allah and not from the kuffar. It's not going to come from them. It won't. It never did happen, and it never will. The only thing they do, if they ever come to our aid, is they're in it first for, and this is what happened, how they originally took over Palestine. When they originally took over Palestine, is that they were supposedly helping the Arabs conquer the Ottomans. Yeah. They came to their aid. Right? And that coming to their aid is when they took Palestine. They took over the whole world, yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And that's the only time they do it. Yeah. They'll do it when it's in their interest, and they're trying to take something from you, or steal something from you. Pit Muslim against Muslim. Exactly. Discord. So we can never expect that they're ever going to come to our aid. Yeah. It's never going to happen.
But how are we going to come to our own aid? That's the.
It has to start with being back in the masjid, for example. Our salat, the Jumu'ah salah needs to be like all the 5. That's what it needs to be.
How do we get that?
One step at a time. Everybody has to make a contribution into bringing Islam back.
We need more Tablighi Jamaat.
No, I'm not knocking them necessarily, but what I'm saying is that, everybody has to play a role. Yeah. Regardless of how small that role is, right? Like everybody has to see that they are contributing towards Islam. Some contribution. It doesn't mean you're doing it 24 hours a day, 1 hour a day, 30 minutes a day, but you're contributing somewhere. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody has to own it. Okay, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He promised to protect His deen. So I mean, it's gonna be protected, whether there's Muslims or not. Right? It was protected when there were a very small few people in Mecca, and they were being persecuted in Mecca. It was protected when they had 3,000 and 10,000 came to kill everybody in Ghazwat al-Ahzab. They came to kill all the Muslims in Medina. From all around, all the tribes, they all got together and they wanted to kill everybody. Allah still protected it. So Allah will protect it no matter what is going on in the world. It will be protected. The question is, will you be a part of it or not? And how is it that you are a part of that? Is that you're advocating for it. This is one step of learning this deen. Then when we learn it, okay, let's get other people into it. Let's bring other people to this. Right? So the more that we're bringing people to this, the more that we're learning from this, and we got to realize it's not about me. It's not about you. It's about just getting on this train. It belongs to Allah.
Yeah.
So we just want to get on this train and we want to go on for this ride.
Fill it up, yeah.
Exactly. And we want to bring as many people as possible. This is how this victory is going to happen. Like, I hate to say this. What is happening in Palestine?
Yeah.
It's going to happen again. It's going to happen again.
Yeah.
It might not be Palestine.
Yeah, it's going to happen all over, yeah. It's already started, yeah. It's just going to be another country.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's every time it's going to be a gut wrencher. It's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna feel like we can't do anything.
Yeah.
But again, this is where it is. I swear by Allah, if we are believers, wallahi, no one will touch us. No one. They will try, but they can't. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised victory for the believers. And Allah's promise is true. There's no way anybody can go against Allah's promise. يريدون ليطفئوا نور الله بأفواههم والله متم نوره ولو كره الكافرون. They try, and they'll continue to try, but it will never be extinguished. Why? Because there will always be people who are holding the flag up with their lives. And the question is, do we want to be a part of that? And alhamdulillah, we're coming to the class and we're trying to learn so that we can be a part of that. And we got to keep taking steps. Let's keep this consistency, because now when we're consistent, Allah puts barakah in it and it turns into something bigger. If you're consistent, Allah puts barakah in it, turns into something bigger. Before you know it, you look around and you're like, whoa, subhanallah, Allah has happened. But then beware to think that it has something to do with you. It's done. You're just on this train that belongs to Allah. Allah blessed you to be on it. So all we have to do is thank Him for being on that train. It has nothing to do with me. Alhamdulillah, I'm on it. And let's just get other people on it. And it's going to keep growing, whether I'm on it or not. The question is, do you want to be on it? If we do, we have to put our effort towards it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us to come back to this deen. Because wallahi, again, it's sad. I mean, in a sense, it's sad. But also, everything that they've been going through in Gaza, right? For some of them, because of the atrocities and everything that they've been going through. I remember, I think it was like 2017 or something. They were like starving, right? And this has been happening over and over and over and over again, right? like everything that they've been going through, for some of them it's a relief to die as a shaheed.
Yeah.
It's a relief.
It's a big honor, yeah.
Not just the honor of it, but also because like they were struggling so much in life that for some of them it's a relief to die.
Yeah.
That just shows you, like, I mean, the atrocities and the difficulties that they've been going through in Gaza and in Palestine in general. It didn't just happen last week.
Right.
It's been happening for years.
95 years, yeah.
For years.
I mean, but for us as Muslims that live in, I mean, there's a sense of guilt because we live amazing lives. I mean, and they don't have food to eat. It's just, I mean, I can speak for myself. I have tremendous guilt. I feel like it's, you know.
So the question always has to be, because this is the thing. It's not wrong to do something that's halal. The question always is, are you doing everything that's pleasing to Allah?
Yeah.
It's not about that person or this person. This person is struggling, that person is struggling. There's always people struggling.
Yeah.
The question is, are you doing your job? Your duty. When you're doing your duty, yes, I mean, guilt happens.
Yeah.
And this was what the Prophet ﷺ felt.
Yeah.
Whenever, anyone of his ummah was suffering,
Yeah.
the Prophet ﷺ would feel it. And he would feel it even when the kuffar weren't becoming Muslim. But for him, the suffering of the Muslim ummah was big to him, but also it was all about getting to Allah. Right? It was big to him because it was about Allah.
Yeah.
Because it's about getting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So the thing about all of this has to be, I mean, I honestly think this is a perfect opportunity for da'wah.
Yeah.
This is a perfect opportunity to call people to Islam. But unfortunately, I hear a lot of people calling to Palestine.
Yeah.
That's an unfortunate thing.
What is your point of view on protesting? Like flag protests are happening all over the world. So, is it like important for us like to participate or?
So first of all, as a Muslim, your duty is to do whatever you can, because as we talked about in the Hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, مَنْ رَأَى مِنْكُمْ مُنْكَرًا فَلْيُغَيِّرْهُ بِيَدِهِ. If you see something wrong, you should change it with your hand. If you can't, then with your tongue. If you can't, then with your heart, and that is the weakest of iman. So the question here, and this is a big discussion with scholars, right? What can you change? And then what effect can you make to make a change? Okay? So I guess everybody has to look at your capability and what you can do. Right? And then do your best to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with that. Maybe a person feels the only thing they can possibly do is protest. Right? And then they go ahead and they do that. Sure. Some people, they feel like, okay, the problem is that if they protest, then, what do you call it? The type of mixing and the type of crowd that they're going to be in, it's going to be problematic. So therefore, I mean, there's an understanding in that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the thing is this. It's about pleasing Allah.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out what is most pleasing to Allah depending on your circumstances. What's going on with you. And that's one, okay? The other aspect to this that I struggle with, which is help or hoping that the non-Muslims will help us. This is something I really struggle with. Reason I struggle with it is, number one, is I feel that is bringing down my dignity as a Muslim. To go to a non-Muslim and say, you guys need to do this and you guys need to do that. Rather, what I need to do to a non-Muslim is tell him what he needs to do is become Muslim. That's the only thing I feel like I should be talking to a non-Muslim about. I should never tell a non-Muslim, I need money. Help me. I should never tell a non-Muslim, I'm drowning, I'm dying, help me. To a non-Muslim, I'm supposed to always look like and then you need to come this way. You need to come over here on my team. Right? But unfortunately, one thing that we're doing, and it's problematic, that we're going to the non-Muslims and saying, and we're saying we're having all of these issues, you need to help us. Right? And I feel that that's a problem. It's a problem with the izzah of Islam. Do you get what I'm saying? But at the same time, everybody has their level of iman. Do you get what I'm saying?
But I mean, I think like I look at it differently. Like for example, protesting, you're raising your voice, and it's not really asking. You're telling them that listen, this is not right, and you can't do this, and to show that we're a power and
So yeah, but when I said what I said, I didn't say it necessarily in the context of a protest.
Okay.
Because rather what I'm saying is I'm just giving that generality. But a protest, again, I mean, there's different aspects to it. If you're going to the protest because you feel like this is the only way you can please Allah, okay, I mean, everybody has their level of iman.
Right.
Everybody has their place where they are. Everybody has their capability, so on and so forth. So everybody has to gauge what you have and what you don't have, what you can contribute and what you can't contribute, right? And be honest with yourself. So when you gauge that, and then now you're looking at, okay, do I go protest or do I not? Then also the next question that is, okay, is it permissible given the environment? Is it a permissible environment, right? So I mean, as long as you're trying to please Allah, that's the goal. But then the other topic, right? It can be associated with a protest, but not necessarily. Which is Islam has izzah, and it's supposed to be the thing with izzah, right? And this is why, I mean, everything that we do in Islam, it is geared to show the world that Islam is what it is the thing. And everybody should want to be here. Why is it that the entire Western world is using most of Islamic laws in their laws? They're using that because they realized, oh wow, Islam is great because one is these laws. So they adopted these laws, right? Eventually, they're going to start to realize that in order for them to be great, they have to do everything Islam does, right? But the thing is why did they actually start to do that? It's because Islam was so great. So they had no choice but to go in that direction. All their laws that they used to have. Like one of the things, for example, how there's a lot of people, they talk about how women are oppressed. The reason they say that is because the Western women were oppressed. But in Islam, that never happened.
No movement in Islam.
Right? That was not a thing in Islam. But it was like that in the West. So because it was like that in the West, they're imposing this idea that the whole world was doing it. When before, like in the West, women are treated like dogs. Or probably even worse.
They try to see whether women have a soul or not. There was a discussion back then.
Oh, really? They did?
Interesting.
But that's just one example.
Yeah.
There's many examples of the unjust stuff that they've done, right? And then they come back to and they start to realize, oh, this stuff is good. Let's take it. But they don't want to call it Islam. They'll call it something else. right? So they make up these laws, and they're like, okay, yeah, that's. But then they don't want to, they don't want to give credit where credit is due. You get what I'm saying? I've heard a lot of mashayikh say that the kuffar eventually, little by little, will have to completely adopt all Islamic laws, because there's no other way for them. They're gonna eventually realize, the more you have data, the more you realize, oh yeah, this is actually the best thing for humanity. Everything that we do, from A to Z, from beginning till end, they're gonna start to realize, oh wow, yeah, like there's always studies. Oh yeah, this is actually good for your health. Something in Islam.
Yeah.
Oh, this is actually good for your health. Like even brushing your teeth,
Yeah.
right? And the list goes on. But they're eventually going to have to start to. They're gonna like little by little realize, oh, we got to do this. But they'll never
Acknowledge Islam.
they'll never accept that this is because of Islam.
I just want to give that example of that, the fly,
Right.
and with the hadith where when it
You have to
they
dip the
it
whole thing? Yes.
Now, when I read it, I was like, what is this about, And then there's a brother that did a study in Egypt,
Uh-huh.
and they said that one of the wing has toxins, and the other wing has antibiotic.
Interesting, for that toxin.
So that's why you have
You
to
have to
dip
dip
the
the
whole
fly in.
thing, yeah. And this is like they took one wing off, and the other wing off, and they studied it.
SubhanAllah.
Subhanallah. I mean, astaghfirullah, it takes science for us to say subhanallah. I mean, for me to say subhanallah, astaghfirullah, may Allah forgive me. But
Exactly. That's the thing.
I should have needed that.
Exactly. And this is why we need
Yeah.
to come back to this.
Yeah.
We all need to come back to this, because this is the only way we're going to be successful on this, on Islam. As Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu said, we are a people, نحن قوم أعزنا الله بالإسلام. Allah made us great with Islam. وإن اعتزنا بغيره أذلنا الله. But when we seek greatness in something other than Islam, Allah's bring us down. And this is exactly the situation we're in today.
Yeah.
Like, literally, Israel is stomping on us in Palestine. They literally told them, go from the north to the south so you won't get bombed. And then they bomb the south. Like, how? And nobody's saying anything about it.
That's the thing. The whole world is watching this.
And this shows you how much of we are just under their feet. They're just stomping. Exactly. This is why. Because we left Islam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us.
Some scholars maybe said, Jews said we will be defeated by Muslims only when their masajid will be full, will be filled with people, just like Jummah prayer, like during Fajr time.
Yeah. 100%. We have to get back to the basics. And one more thing I want to mention. During the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the hypocrites, they went to the masjid. Right? So, like, everybody was in the masjid.
Yeah.
For all the salawat. Right? This was like, and this was like, anytime we have greatness in the history of Islam, you go to the masjid. How the masjid was during that time, you'll find our greatness was when the masajid were full. Whenever the masajid go down, whenever they become empty, that is when we lose our greatness. Because, who gives us greatness? So it's in the masjid.
Yeah.
That's exactly where the greatness is. It's in the masjid. All right, let's go through the hadith. Inshallah. Who wants to read?
قال المؤلف رحمه الله عن ابن عباس عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم
عن رسول الله
صلى الله عليه وسلم فيما يرويه عن ربه تبارك وتعالى قال إن الله كتب الحسنات والسيئات ثم بين ذلك فمن هم بحسنة فلم يعملها كتبها الله عنده حسنة كاملة وإن هم بها فعملها كتبها الله عنده 10 حسنات إلى 700 ضعف إلى أضعاف كثيرة وإن هم بسيئة فلم يعملها كتبها الله عنده حسنة كاملة وإن هم بها فعملها كتبها الله سيئة واحدة. رواه Bukhari Muslim.
There's nothing else that he said after that?
No, I mean not that I have.
That's it?
No, there's long paragraph.
فانظر يا أخي.
Really?
فانظر يا أخي وفقنا الله وإياك إلى عظيم لطف الله تعالى وتأمل هذه الألفاظ وقوله عنده إشارة إلى الاعتناء بها وقوله كاملة للتأكيد وشدة الاعتناء بها وقال في السيئة التي هم بها ثم تركها كتبها الله عنده حسنة كاملة فأكدها بكاملة وإن عملها كتبها سيئة واحدة أكد تقليلها بواحدة ولم يؤكدها بكاملة فلله الحمد والمنة سبحانه لا نحصي ثناء عليه وبالله التوفيق.
الحمد لله. Wallahi, this hadith, subhanallah, is incredible. Because, like, you know one of Allah's names is Ash-Shakur. Do you know what that means, Ash-Shakur? Thankful.
If you're generous, he's more generous, or if you're thankful, he's more thankful.
Well, so Ash-Shakur is that it means thankful, like extremely thankful. But think about it for a second.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I was like, why would?
Right. Why would Allah thank us?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the shukr comes from shukr, right? Shukur.
Yes.
But the most supreme, like.
Yeah. So why would Allah thank us? That subhanahu wa ta'ala is so gracious.
Yeah.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so amazing that, okay, when you do a good deed, He calls it your deed. He said that you did it. When you don't deserve any credit for it. That's the first sign of Him being thankful to you. Because of that good deed. That's one. Two, He doesn't need our good deeds. He does not need it at all. It does nothing. It does nothing for Him. Right? So, but yet He's thankful for it. Subhanallah. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or he's narrating this from Allah. And again, we talked about a hadith Qudsi can be paraphrased. Okay? And it seems that this hadith is paraphrased the way the Prophet ﷺ phrased it. Okay? So he said that Allah, because again, if it wasn't paraphrased, he would just say Allah, like that he would just say exactly what Allah said. But rather he said Allah wrote the hasanat and sayyat. Right? And then he explained how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wrote hasanat and sayyat. Hasanat, good deeds, sayyat, bad deeds. Okay? So Allah wrote these. How does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala record your good deeds and bad deeds? So he said that when you do a good deed, or when you, think about a good deed, because we talked about ham before. We talked about the different types of intentions. Did we not? This was in the first hadith. You guys remember? That was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember that. So we talked about the 5 different types of thinking. Okay? So you have level of thinking, which is, I believe, al-hajis, right? Let me... So the first level is al-hajis, right? Al-hajis is that something, it just like crosses through your mind, right? Like it just passes through. You don't really think about it, right? Like, for example, you might see something. You didn't never notice that you saw it. But then like a couple of days later, somebody asks you like, oh, where is this? And you're like, oh, I saw it.
Subconscious is in your subconscious.
Right, yeah. So it's like a subconscious thought. Okay? The next level is al-khatir, right? Al-khatir. Okay? Al-khatir is the level that honestly, I don't remember exactly the difference between al-hajis and khatir. But nonetheless, it's higher than al-hajis. Okay? And hadith al-nafsi is when you're talking to yourself.
Okay, I remember this. This is when we were, even before the class even started, we were sitting in the masjid. When we were thinking about doing this class, you talked about
Oh, okay. Is that where I talked about it? Okay.
Yeah, we just,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. This is when I was like, yeah, we gotta go. This time. Yeah.
Okay, so then the next level is when you're talking to yourself. Okay? So just,
What's that called?
that's called hadith al-nafsi. Okay? So that's the level above al-khatir. And again, I don't remember. I have to look that up about khatir exactly. What's the difference between that and hajis? But it's a higher level than hajis. So then after hadith al-nafsi is ham. This is the one that the Prophet ﷺ is talking about in this hadith. Ham. Okay? Ham is basically when you're thinking that you want to follow an action with it. So the first 3 that I mentioned, there's no action associated with them. 0. Right? The first one, you didn't even know you thought it. Okay? The second one,
There's remembrance in the second one, right? It's not like crossing, you remember.
yeah, I think,
Maybe,
yeah, you remember it, yes.
maybe in your conscious.
Right. Right, so the third one, I mean, you're literally talking to yourself, but there's no action associated with it that you're thinking about doing. Okay? Now, al-ham, you're thinking about an action. Okay? But that doesn't mean you're going to do it. And then the level above that is al-qasd, which is also referred to as an-niyya. Your intention. Okay? Al-qasd, which is referred to, it's also referred to as a niyya. And there has to be an action that is associated with that. So your intention, your niyya, there is an action that is associated with it. If there's no action associated with it, then it's ham. Does that make sense? Because now when you actually do it, it became qasd. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So now, the Prophet ﷺ used the word ham here. Okay? So if someone thinks about a good deed, okay? Alright? but then you don't do it. The Prophet ﷺ said, you get a full good deed. He didn't say you get a good deed. He said you get a full good deed. Like literally all you have to do is to think about it and you get a good deed. Thinking about a good deed gives you good deeds. So I guess what they say, you know, the what are they called, the personal coaches,
Life coaches.
the life coaches and the personal motivators and all those
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
They always say you have to think positive.
Yeah.
Well, here's the hadith where maybe they got it from, I don't know, but the Prophet ﷺ told us about this 1400 years ago, where thinking good actually gives you good deeds. Thinking good, thinking about doing good deeds actually gives you good deeds. Right? But now when you think about it and then now you actually do it, Allah can multiply it up to 700 times. إِلَىٰ أَضْعَافٍ كَثِيرًا. Then he said أَضْعَافٍ كَثِيرًا after 700, meaning like you don't know the limit. By just doing the good deed. He didn't say like making hajj or freeing a slave or like saving a life or no. He just said a good deed. A good deed.
So, brother, I said my patient always, thinking good will help you good. Thinking positive give you positive result. You will not get depressed. And that helps for them too, you know. Thinking positive brings positive results, you know.
Right. So and this is what we're saying in this hadith. The Prophet ﷺ is telling us that when you think about a good deed, you get a good deed. So yes, getting good deed, yes, brings positive results. So think
helps them a lot, you know.
100%, because just thinking good gives you good deeds. Yes.
But thinking about doing good, not thinking like that's kind of different. Thinking positive and thinking about doing good is different things.
So okay.
I think positive and good deeds are good things, you know, same thing.
Well,
I think so. In a way.
I mean,
So
like
let's-
for example, like
So if there is a difference between the two, let's assume there's a difference between thinking positive and thinking of good deeds.
Yeah.
What the Prophet ﷺ is saying here is thinking about a good deed.
Yeah.
So let's think about a good deed.
Right.
That's the thing that you get blessings for.
Can I give an example? Like for example, like you say, okay, today, inshallah, I'm gonna help somebody give them food today. That's thinking about doing a good deed, right?
Right.
And then thinking positive is, oh, you know what, I'm gonna ace this test or whatever. That's thinking positive. That's the difference. So there's a big difference there.
There's also a hadith about thinking positive, though.
But that's not this one, though. Right?
It's not this one.
Yeah.
But there is a hadith
Yeah.
about thinking positive.
But I think what she was saying was thinking positive. That's a different situation, I think, than what's here.
So it is still good, though, to think positive.
Right. It is, but it's
But
not,
there is a different
it's
hadith.
not pertinent to this. Though.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this hadith, yes, the Prophet ﷺ is talking about thinking about a good deed.
Yeah.
Yes. But you don't do it.
Right. Because I'm always negative. That's why she's trying. I'm Mr. Negativity.
But thinking about the good deed and then not doing it
Yeah.
gives you a full good deed, right? And this is what Imam Nawawi rahmatullah alayhi said after that. He said, look at how the Prophet ﷺ put emphasis on giving you a good deed. He didn't just say it gives you a good deed. He said it gives you a full good deed, right? And then he said, when you think about the good deed and then you do the good deed, Allah gives you, He multiplies it up until Allah knows best how many times. Right? He said, إِلَى 700 ضِعْفٍ إِلَى أَضْعَافٍ كَثِيرًا. But then now, if you think about a bad deed, now this is incredible to me, right? And then you don't do that bad deed. Okay? You thought about it, but then you didn't do it. Right? You get a full good deed. you get a full good deed because you didn't do that bad deed. But now
You
when
get
you,
for any bad thing from bad not doing anything. You get the full reward for not doing it. That's
yes,
what you meant?
yes,
Okay.
you get the full reward for not doing it. And then when you think about that bad deed and then you do the bad deed, he says you get one bad deed.
And he did not say like here, Kamil.
Right. He did not say that it is a full one bad deed. He just said you just get one bad deed. And also, this is one thing in Arabic, is there's a difference between saying a, like when you say a bottle, and one bottle. Because one bottle is smaller than a bottle.
Right. It's definite.
Yes.
Yeah.
And belittling it.
This is mercy, supreme mercy.
Yes. And that's why I mentioned how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is ash-shakur. And that's out of His amazing great mercy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, subhanallah, subhanallah. And this is the thing about a believer. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us to be believers. That Imam al-Nawawi rahmatullah alayhi, he mentions this in Riyadh al-Salihin. He says that that a believer should have fear and hope as wings, like a bird has two wings, right? So imagine a bird that only has one wing, it won't be able to fly. It'll be useless, right? It needs both wings in order for it to fly, and they both have to be equally healthy. So that fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His mightiness, His greatness, His ability to destroy nations, His ability to punish, to torture, or to torment, right? That fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should make us never sin, right? And then that hope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's abundant mercy, forgiveness, thankfulness, so on and so forth, of all Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's amazing, beautiful attributes. That hope in all of that should make us be endless in doing good deeds. Because I'm hoping for Firdaus, I'm hoping for to get to that highest level, so I want to do as many good deeds as possible. Right? Like the guy who he was about to fight in jihad, and the Prophet ﷺ told him about like he's about to go to Jannah. So he was about to eat a date, but when the Prophet ﷺ told him, he was like, I'm not eating that. Let's go.
That's not wasting any time.
So when you have that level of love and hope for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it pushes you to do good. And then when you have that level of fear and it'll keep you away from sins. Yes. So you have to use this for that and that for this. So alhamdulillah, I mean this hadith, subhanallah, is so amazing. I mean like think about it. You do a good deed. I mean just think about reading the Quran for a second here. Just think about, I want to read the Quran. Then you got a good deed because you didn't read it. Right? Now, and I think that, okay, yeah, now you actually read it, and then Alif Lam Mim, you just got 30 hasanat. But then you commit one sin, that was one sin. That was just the one.
Scale should be pretty good then. I mean, if you think about it.
What's that?
I mean, the scale should be good. I mean, if you.
So that when you hear this,
Yeah.
it should make you go, wow, I need to get into more good deeds.
Right. I mean, Allah has made it possible for you to make more good deeds. I mean, He gives
Yes.
you an incentive to do so.
Exactly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so gracious and so thankful and so giving, and subhanallah. Like, I mean, out of all the people in America, Allah blessed us to be sitting here to talk about Him. Where in America, drinking alcohol is normal, drugs, and a whole bunch of different stuff. Right? You know, you in the hospital all the time and you see crazy stuff. These things are common in America. But Allah chose us from all these people in America to be here and talking about Him. Alhamdulillah.
Allah keep us on the right path.
Ameen, ya Rabb. Ameen, ya Rabb. So I think we got another 20 minutes. Let's get going on that next hadith. Any questions on that hadith?
What's the other these for the positive thinking? Because he is very negative in everything. He is
I have to look at it. I have to find it because I don't remember off the top of my head. Say it again.
Von.
Zone.
Von.
So, oh, wait a second. That's different than tafa'ul though. But so there is overlap, but it's different. Let me say this. So husnul dhann. Let's talk about this because I guess there is some overlap here. Husnul dhann is the aspect of thinking good of someone. Okay? So there's a hadith Qudsi where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "My servant thinks of me. I am what my servant thinks of me." Right? So therefore think good of me. Of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in thinking good of Allah is thinking good of everything around us. Because tafa'ul comes from that. What is it? Tafa'ul is optimism, or there's another word for it. I'm trying to remember what it is. So like tasha'um is like bad omens. And that's the opposite of tafa'ul.
That's haram. I mean,
So what is tafa'ul? There's a word for it in English. My phone is on Zoom, so I can't Google it. It's basically optimism, but I think there's another word for it though. That's more specific than optimism. But anyways, tafa'ul, it comes from husnul dhann billah. Because think about it. If I'm thinking good of Allah, then I believe that Allah is always giving me what's best for me. Right? I believe that no matter what I'm in, no matter what I have, no matter what I don't have, this is exactly the best situation for me. Does that make sense? You're looking it up, Samir?
yeah, is it tafa'ul or tafa'ul?
Ul. With a hamza.
I looked it up. It says optimism.
Optimism? Okay. So thinking good of Allah gives you optimism. The result of that can be optimism, okay? Because you realize, okay, let's think about a few scenarios here. Let's say you have a person in your life that is harmful to you and being difficult towards you, or being, whatever it is, hurting you. this person in your life, right? Well, Allah chose that person to be in your life, right? That person was chosen by Allah to be in your life. Regardless of how that person came into your life, Allah chose that person to be in your life. So because Allah chose that person to be in your life, then you should be thinking, oh, how do I benefit from this person? As opposed to, how do I harm this person because they did this and they did that and they did this, right? Another way to look at this. I don't know where I am. I'm lost, right? I'm in the middle of somewhere, I don't know, and I don't know which way to go. I know Allah's in charge, though. I know Allah is going to guide me. I know Allah is going to take care of me. So why worry? What is there to worry about? Right? So yeah, I'm in the middle of nowhere, but Allah will take care of me. SubhanAllah. I can tell you guys some stories that if it didn't happen to me, I probably wouldn't believe it. Like, there's a friend of mine, SubhanAllah. I think it's wrong to me. So one year I was surprising my parents. It was, I didn't see them for a long time. So I went to Medina to surprise my parents, right? So my brother, he picked me up from Jeddah to go to Medina, right? So we're in the car going to Medina, and my brother calls my dad, and I'm sitting right next to my brother, right? So he calls my dad and he says, Dad, did you see Abu Bakr? Or did Abu Bakr call you? My dad's like, no, I didn't talk to him. He's like, I don't know, what's up with that guy, man? He's like, I don't know what's going on with Abu Bakr. He's like, what do you mean? What's going on? He said, I don't know, he didn't call me. That's what Abdullah said. So right after they had that conversation, he said, a friend of mine, he's a very, he said, he's here. He was like, oh yeah, tell him to wait because I want to see him. My brother's saying this.
Okay.
But he knows this because, like, I want to see him.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't get to see him, you know. So he said no, he's got to go because he's going to Mecca and he's got to fly out the next day back to the States. So, and I knew when I got to Medina, I was going to stay in Medina for a while and then go to Mecca.
Yeah.
Right? So I said, Alhamdulillah, qaddar Allah ma sha'a fa'al. So I went to Medina. I stayed in Medina for like maybe a week. We went for Umrah in Mecca. Came back to Medina, stayed in Medina for another 2 weeks maybe, something like that. And then now, as I'm getting ready to leave, I'm going to leave from Jeddah again. Me and my brother, we said, let's go do tawaf. Not Umrah, just tawaf. Because we didn't have time for Umrah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it wasn't Umrah. Maybe it was Umrah. Was it? I don't know. I'm not sure if it was Umrah or tawaf. So we finished Umrah or tawaf, whatever it was, I don't remember. And then we were kind of late. We were worried that we might miss the flight. But we really wanted to get a burger. Right? So we said, you know what? I understand we're late, but we're just going to, gun it a little bit. Let's go get a burger. Let's go get some food, right? So we go into the clock tower to get some food. And subhanAllah, as I'm walking to the burger place, I see somebody from a distance, and like the way he looks, the way his beard is, I'm like, that looks like Ahmed. I'm like, no way, because he went back to America.
Yeah.
So there's no way that's him. So I'm getting closer. I'm like, that really looks like him. I'm like, no, it's not possible. And I finally got to him, and it was him. He was like, he just delayed his trip. He just stayed in Mecca. And this happened with this specific guy. Like, I met him on Hajj. We're not in the same group. We didn't even know we were going to Hajj together. Like 2 times. Like in the middle of like millions of people. And it happened with other people as well. SubhanAllah. And the crazy thing is, this happens to my dad. Like literally, like somebody goes to Medina, right? And then they say, oh yeah, I want to meet your dad. I say, just go to Medina. He's going to see you. and it really does happen.
Doesn't
He
happen to me,
really,
though.
but because he doesn't know you. I'm
Yeah.
talking about people
Yeah,
he knows.
Yeah.
Brother Riaz met him too, right? Correct.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, mashallah.
So I mean, this happens to people he knows because I mean he knows
Yeah.
to look for you.
Right.
So when he knows somebody's coming, like he literally like looks
for
and
you.
he always finds them. Always.
Mashallah, is that the profile pictures of him?
Huh?
That is that profile picture on WhatsApp?
Yeah, that's my dad. Yeah.
Mashallah.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean,
But
but-
he
so-
looks young.
but the point, I mean, telling you guys these stories, subhanallah,
Yeah, that's a kid, okay.
is like Allah makes things happen, like in just ways you would never expect.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if you're always thinking good about Allah, you always have Allah as like He's always taking care of you. He's always doing good for you. Then it's like what are you worried about? Like, what's the worry? And subhanAllah, I say this for myself more than I'm saying it for you guys because human nature, we worry.
Yeah.
This happens. Right? But, like, Allah's in charge.
That's another level of iman, though. I mean, I speak for myself, though. I mean, something happens, I just freak out, you know, like what's gonna happen, that, you know. But you don't, stuff like you don't think like that Allah is in control. Allah has, he made the situation
Yeah, from A to Z.
from A to Z, and it doesn't play out at that time. You know, you're like,
It's a constant practice
Yeah.
that you have to constantly practice.
yeah. I mean, at later on, you look back, you're like, oh,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
what
I
Allah
mean,
did, you know.
I'm telling you, I've seen situations, especially Hajj, right?
Yeah.
You go to Hajj, you're like, how in the world are these people safe?
Yeah.
SubhanAllah. That's a beautiful. There's something. about
Like,
it.
I remember there was this one Hajj that I made, right? It was like it was so crowded, I wasn't walking on the floor.
Yeah.
I can't feel the floor,
Yeah.
like
right?
I
And this
couldn't
was
breathe.
at the Jamarat.
Yeah. I had to look up to breathe. It was just, I couldn't breathe. It was just,
So, yeah, this was Hajj?
this is the Hajj, yeah.
Okay, was it at the Jamarat?
No, this was Tawaf.
Okay, so this is back when the Jamarat was like a little pillar like this. Now it's like a big boat,
Yeah.
like a pillar like this.
what is Jamarat? If I don't know.
When you stone,
We gotta go to Hajj, man.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
We gotta
So-
make a trip together, inshallah.
Yeah.
so in this year there was like
Together, inshallah.
so in this year there was like 300 people that fell off of the bridge, and this is why they made the bridge the
SubhanAllah.
and this is like it happened like I was there. I was like in the middle of it,
SubhanAllah.
right?
It
And
happened to us too.
and like I felt like literally
Somebody lifts you up.
yeah, but it was just crowded. Like I'm not and I'm not feeling the floor.
Yeah.
And it was like that for like 5 minutes.
Allah.
SubhanAllah.
Because and it felt like somebody was pushing behind me, like there were people pushing, but I don't see anybody pushing. I look and nobody's pushing.
Yeah.
But it's just because it was so crowded, and
Yeah.
subhanallah, it was a miracle that it wasn't more than 300 that died. Like it could have been way more.
When we went, it was a stampede. Remember the stampede?
Yeah.
What year was that?
2015.
50.
2015. So we were walking. The train wasn't working. We were coming back from Muzdalifah back to Mina. We
Mm-hmm.
walked, and like I think 5 minutes later, like my phone really.
That
Yeah,
year.
that year.
With
so-
that big accident.
because
happened.
they were blocking the people, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
they just broke. I don't know how many people died.
Yeah, it was,
2,000 people died. Yeah.
I don't know.
And we were there. We
Yeah, I
literally
wasn't
were
there
there
that
in the
year.
same place 5 minutes earlier.
Right.
I don't know.
So I mean, that's you look now. You look back, you're like, that's for sure 1,000%.
So again, this it's the exact same thing, and it happens all the time in our lives. Like you can probably recount many situations. Actually, I'll tell you about a situation, subhanAllah, that happened to me. Another time, I was going to the masjid for Fajr, and I'm wide awake. I'm fine. Everything is good. Okay, this was back in Michigan, and I stop at the red light. Okay, and this way that I go every day, and it's like I'm almost like it's very routine. So I stop at the red light, and I don't know what happened. I wasn't looking at my phone or anything. I thought it turned green, but it didn't. So I go out, and I'm going in the middle of the road, and I see a car zooming at me. and he's like honking, "Arr, arr." And I look, and the light is red, and I'm like, ooh, and I gun the gas, and it was like he was like this close to hitting me, subhanallah. And I was like, wow, how Allah protected me in that situation. And like it was like a split second. And how did I even know to press the gas? Like I could have pressed the brakes out of panic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it was just Allah helped me in that situation. And this happens all the time. Like Allah showed me that.
Yeah.
But there are situations that happen when Allah doesn't show it to you. You don't know.
Right.
Right? So that's the thing, is that we have to have this trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, believing that Allah is always giving us what's best. And you're just submitting to it.
How do you train yourself instead of looking back?
It's a
and saying,
constant thought process.
Because when you look back and say, "Oh, Allah did that," we know for sure Allah did that. I mean, but during that situation, you know,
It's a constant thought process
I think
that you have to constantly think.
yeah,
Allah is giving me this. Allah is giving me this. Alhamdulillah. Allah is doing this. Alhamdulillah. So on and
whether
so forth.
good or bad. I mean, what
Yeah.
you perceive is good or
No,
bad.
it's
Yes.
like that. What happened at the light for him, right?
Yeah.
He's happy
Yeah.
right there, right? Okay. Think about if something happened with a family member or someone that you love, right?
Right.
Okay, be happy. The reward is gonna be great. That's the message of right. When something bad happened, we cannot change it. Already happened. Before, if we can prevent it, would be nice. We cannot.
But the thing is we really don't have control over anything.
Correct. That's
Like Allah ordered us to tie our camel. That's it. The camel can still run away.
That's true.
I mean, I can give you an example, like in work, you know, if something happens, like, you know, I see a patient, I do whatever I can, and something happens to the patient. Like, I can't sleep for like days because of like, what did I miss? What did I
You need
this,
to change
that?
your job, man.
I
I do. I
Come
definitely
work with
do.
us.
I wish I could, man. But it's like a constant, like yeah, I mean, and for me, that's like a big problem. I like,
A lot of attachment with the patient.
So do you have a checklist?
yeah, I mean, but the thing is that you're the time crunch is so much. It's like split second. You gotta do things in a split second. And
So you just have to trust that you just did
yeah.
your best.
That's what I'm trying to get to. I think I need to do that, you know, because I did whatever humanly possibly I could do. There's not more.
Yeah, I
can
mean,
do, you know?
you're human.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna make mistakes too. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Because even let's say you made a mistake,
Yeah.
you're human. I mean, this is unfortunately the nature of that business, is that people will die on your watch. So I mean, you can't control everything.
Don't forget you save a lot too. That's the
I mean,
thing.
I don't do anything well.
No, Allah is doing it, but with your hand. You
So
will-
yeah, that's the thing, is you take the wins and you say Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
You take the losses and you say that Allah had that in his store. Like there's nothing that you could have done to change that. Right? It's not in your control
Yeah.
both ways.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at to myself. I know what the right answer is, but during that time, you're just like, everything you lose.
Try to remember Allah more
Yeah,
when you're doing it.
yeah, that's true.
As have a certain dhikr that you're saying
Yeah.
when you're
Seeing patient. Yeah, I
Yes.
say Bismillah every time. I say before I see a patient. Before I go in the room, I say Bismillah. You know.
but continue
Yeah.
dhikr throughout the process. Obviously when you can, because sometimes
yeah.
you can't. Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
so one guy just accepted Islam. It's a good news here.
Oh, mashallah.
That's why I was when Sheikh Muhammad just called me to open a door for him.
Uh-huh.
I was wanting to bring you to talk to him, but I just like, I don't want to interrupt the class.
Uh-huh.
So I just hold him for a second until Sheikh come. So he came and,
Accept Islam.
yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
accept. Alhamdulillah.
You thought you were just.
What's his name?
His name is some name I don't know. I forgot. I'm so sorry.
What-
We did not give him an Islamic name yet.
Okay, but it's not Amir.
It's not Amir.
Okay.
Oh, this guy is no,
Because that's
American
somebody
name.
I've been expecting.
No, American name. This is
Okay.
American name, not Amir.
Okay.
Yeah, it's American name.
Alhamdulillah.
So he's Caucasian.
Okay.
I'm gonna love bring Amir too. Inshallah.
Um,
I mean,
He came
He
in.
already has a Muslim name, so he's good to go.
Mm.
Inshallah.
any other questions?
I missed it. I cannot ask any question because I missed the class today. I
Mhm.
feel bad. I had to
I apparently don't have the right stuff, so I'm not gonna even say.
That part is not in all books. The part that
Oh, okay.
is not in every book. Yeah. So don't feel bad about
Yeah,
that.
I was like, I think I could read like I'm missing a whole paragraph. This guy is so funny, man.
Yeah, did you watch
My mashayikh would be disappointed in me.
Why?
But because I don't know the next hadith.
Oh.
I say you felt the thing, right?
The next
What?
one is من عاد لي وليا
فقد آذنته بالحرب. Okay.
What number was it?
38 now. The next one will be 38.
Yeah.
MashaAllah.
I used to I memorized with Sheikh Roshaidan, and man he butchered me.
You had
Allah
a
bless
class,
him.
right? Normal class, this hadith or whatever, like the normal class, say school, say college, for this hadith class, or just
These are hadith?
Yeah.
No, I sat with a sheikh.
In Medina.
I had a personal sheikh who taught me.
MashaAllah.
May Allah have mercy on him. He died last year. Rahmatullahi alayhi. Sheikh Abdul Rahman Muhyiddin. Rahmatullahi alayhi.
Sheikh, can I ask you about Husn al-Dhan? Is this tied into hadith that you're supposed to have? If somebody does, like, if a bad thought about somebody else comes in your mind, give him like 70 excuses.
Well, so yeah, so the one I mentioned was Husn al-Dhan with Allah.
Okay.
That is tied to Husn al-Dhan with people
Okay.
because that person that you're dealing with,
Yeah.
Allah put him in your life.
Right. For a reason.
So you should have good thoughts about that person
Right.
because Allah put him there.
Even if he's a kafir.
To a certain extent, I mean, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Allah the Prophet ﷺ gave us ways to deal with the kuffar,
Right.
right? So you just deal with them in that way that's pleasing to Allah. Yeah, that's it.
If you have a few minutes, the Sheikh want to talk to you too.
Okay. Alright, inshallah. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
Jazakumullah khair.
Wa iyakum.